Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello, welcome to The Radical podcast with me. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
Today we're talking about the locavore movement and also eating seasonally. Listeners, if you've heard that term or if you've been reading anything about farmers markets and some of these cottage industries that are coming up about following the agricultural cycles in the area that you live in. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, what that means for me and Nicole. And also, since we're coming up on the Imbolc celebration coming at the beginning of February, the first day of February, I think, Nicole, I skimmed your notes and I saw some Imbolc notes.
Yeah, just a little mention. Wanted to tie in some themes to this conversation.
And it totally matches, listeners. Anytime we're talking about any of the Wheel of the Year and the earth-based spirituality, Sabbaths or celebrations, it's all has to do with following nature. And to me, at least learning and researching locavore culture and seasonal eating culture ties in with following the seasons and following the Wheel of the Year. And we'll talk more about what we mean by that. So, and oh my gosh, I was getting ready to get started and I didn't talk about segment 1. We talk about the list. Segment 2, reflections. And I have a paragraph of my own thoughts about nothing will get me fired up like talking about what we eat and how important it is. And then segment 3, the Oracle cards. I'm using the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Guidebook, one of our favorite decks by Kim Kranz. And I've got the cards picked out here already, ready to go. The universe has got its messages ready for us. So I think we'll just dive in. What is locavore? Spelled Locavore. It's a person whose diet consists only or primarily of locally grown or produced food. Depending on where you live in the world, this can be a very hard concept or a very easy concept. If you live in a very urban area, big cities, sometimes it might feel like this is kind of an impossible situation. But then you could do a little research and find out there are stores who bring in local produce and locally crafted stuff. Even grocery stores are doing it now. Nicole, have you seen this?
I have, yeah. I'm in Canada right now, so I'm experiencing how food and the stores here, how they approach eating locally and seasonally. But I have back home as well noticed that.
Yeah, I see whole areas dedicated to local products. So why be a locavore? By comparison, local food is healthier because it's only transported a short distance and isn't exposed to chemicals, gases, waxes, or anything else to preserve the food for long distance transport. So that's it in a nutshell, listeners. The closer the food is to being grown, picked, processed to your door is better, nutritionally and for the environment. Eating local also means you can meet the people who grow your food if you are in a place where you have any farmers markets around. But the word locavore defines a person who eats locally produced food or someone who chooses to buy from a local market rather than importing goods, because you could even choose to shop at a smaller grocery store than the big grocery store. Right? If there's anywhere, if any of you listeners are lucky enough to live in an area where you have a non-chain grocery store, go to it. Go buy whatever it is you eat from that store, or at least shop there first before you go to the big store. And it develops a relationship between us and our food. Anytime that we think about what we're eating, why we're eating it, and where it came from is important. Something that we do multiple times a day can be such a huge benefit for ourselves to eat seasonal food and local food, but also it is tying back to our power as purchasing power and expressing what we want for our communities in the future, what we want for ourselves. This locavore movement, it promotes, like I said, eating better, but also helps the planet, eating healthier, supporting sustainable agriculture, and supporting your neighbors. And there was this thing I saw at distance. The movement concept is that food shouldn't travel no more than 160 kilometers to reach your plate. I didn't do the distance in miles. Did you just do that, Nicole? How many miles is it?
I did. 99.4.
And I'm going to tell you, I don't look at the mileage at all. So it could come from my state, and I'm like, yes. Or a neighboring state, and I still feel better about purchasing that than something that is, on the other side of the country. This started in 2005 by a group of women in San Francisco. Challenged their community to eat locally for a month. That's a fun challenge. See if you could do it for a week or a month. They called themselves the locavores and encouraged others to join them in their quest for more sustainable food systems. And why? Why do this? Why take the time out of your busy day to research and find options that are local to you or that are in your community and supporting your community? It reduces your carbon footprint, supports local farmers, boosts your local economy, and it powers up your health when you eat food with a higher nutritional value, which ties right back into seasonal eating. It diversifies your diet, honestly, and you get more antioxidants, and the food is going to taste better because it has less processing to it. So that's what a locavore is and does and means and where it came from and when it came from. And this ties right in with seasonal eating. Seasonal eating is the practice of eating food that is harvested locally or is locally within that 100 miles, right? and consumed shortly after being harvested. Seasonal food is fresh food that is ready to eat during its preferred season. Blueberries grow at a set time every year following nature. If you eat the blueberries when they are in season, they will have more nutrients and be better for you. Now, you may ask, why are blueberries available year-round in grocery stores? It's because they're coming from very far away to get to you when you're buying them when they're not in season. And you can look at the packaging to see what country those blueberries, strawberries, whatever it is you're eating, where they're coming from. And this is tied to just the like how humans evolved side by side with these blueberries and strawberries and cows and chicken and all, like, we were farmers or we were hunter or gatherers, and for thousands of years humans just ate what they could at that time of year, and so our bodies have adjusted to this, and it's a way of going back to the connection between humans and nature, that we are genetically adapted to the cycles of the seasons that coincide with the rhythm of the harvests and the rhythm of the year. And there's, a lot of people's personal reflections and stories that it works for them. It feels good to them to eat seasonally. And if you're eating seasonally, the freshness of the food, the seasonal food is fresher because it doesn't have to travel as far. It's tastier because it is at the peak of its season. And it has a lot more nutrients in it when you're eating it when it's fresh. If you really like avocados, and even though avocados don't grow in the state you live in, avocados still have a season. So you can only eat avocados when they're in season and choose not to purchase them throughout the rest of the year. You could do that with any fruits and vegetables. And you can find this so easily. All you have to do is use your open source search engine, your AI robot, whatever you have, and the robot or your AI or your search engine will tell you. I printed out a whole sheet with all the vegetables and fruits that are in season where I live. But the United States Department of Agriculture divides the country into 13 zones based on the 30-year average of the coldest annual temperatures. So you can find what it is, what is growing any time of the year in the state that you live in.
I think about in our state, the heirloom tomatoes around July.
Yeah.
Those are delicious. And then in the fall time, a sweet potato is extra delicious.
I know that not everybody lives in an area that has everything available, but I also talk about at the very end of this podcast very much how there's a movement of people taking back responsibility for their food. There's greenhouses and hoop houses and hydroponics and chicken coops. And if it's happening in just a few places in every state, then there might be a way for you to have access to other people's produce besides farmers markets and grocery stores. That I think it's out there. And then guess what, listeners? If it's not out there and we want it, then we have to do it. Then we have to grow it. We have to figure out how to support the people who are growing it so that they will grow more and we'll have access to fresh, locally grown food. It all starts with the information and the desire and the intention. Just start looking around to see what's out there. But that's the definition of locavore and seasonal eating. And it is a big concept, especially if you're already busy and you already don't have enough time and everything's already too expensive. But I'm telling you, our power is in our hands. And everything we buy and everything we purchase and everything we consume is a way of us expressing what we want for the future.
While I've been in Vancouver, I've seen a lot of community gardens. I think those are becoming a trend where we live. I just moved, and where I live now, back home, there's a community garden.
That's fantastic.
We'll talk real quick about Imbolc. Imbolc is a traditional Celtic festival around the 1st or 2nd of February, and this celebration falls between the winter solstice and spring equinox. I kept it really simple for the podcast today. There's a lot more that I could say about Imbolc, but I picked out one relevant theme since we're talking about food and our patterns around eating. Imbolc theme, it's a time of gentle introspection. And this celebration encourages us to plant seeds, literally and metaphorically. Some metaphysical practices during Imbolc could include rituals to set intentions for growth and renewal, and meditative practices that connect us with our inner guidance as well as the earth's energies. Some grounding, a little bit of that resolution type energy since we're still early on in the year. As I was writing my notes, even though I'm not home, I still felt this connection to my immediate environment. I felt very much like rooted into my immediate and local community, even though I'm just
Yeah.
visiting. And this might sound kind of weird, but when I was tuning into the themes and the energy of Imbolc, I almost got like nostalgic for a time and a place that I've never actually been
Yeah.
to.
That's a thing. That's a thing that humans suffer from, or that we're afflicted with, is this sense of longing
Yeah,
when we see something or we visit somewhere, and it's this sense of wanting something different, but you remember it. It's like a memory.
right. Yeah. I kind of felt like I did travel back in
Mm-hmm.
time, and I felt like I could clearly imagine how our ancestors lived and, hunted, gathered, harvested. I even thought about making jams and jellies and putting them in jars and canning and preserving. Our ancestors didn't have the option of going to a grocery store. What would that life and lifestyle be like if you were completely reliant on your immediate local environment for sustenance? How different it is today with our mega chains and
Yeah.
superstores.
Well, there's a way. Oh, sorry. There's a way that you can mindfully do this, because you can choose not to buy things, and then you can choose what you consume during the year and stretch things out and have a time of feast and a time of famine, when you're like, I'm going to eat everything that's in this house before I go to the grocery store. Have you ever done that,
I
where you're
have.
like, I will eat all these old cans of soup, I will go through all my frozen vegetables before I go and buy fresh food? That's kind of like a self-imposed end of winter, like right now, like where you would be right now if you were in those times where you didn't have grocery stores, is that you would be eating through your pantry. You would not be receiving
Mhm.
any new things from outside. So you can inflict you can challenge yourself to this as well, and choose to follow the themes and the sense, and the yeah, do a little research on where you live in the world or where you connect to in the world, and eat what the people would have been eating in that region at that time. We've got the information out there. You can easily find it. But there is this sense of, I want to do it. It's like that longing and that nostalgia, that I like it when things are a little challenging, and it makes that strawberry so much sweeter when you have it, when that strawberry season kicks off.
Right. How is this metaphysical? How does this fit into the theme of our
Hmm.
podcast? In short, because everything is energy. There's energy, spirit, life force in our food.
Yeah.
In one of our early podcast episodes, we talked about paganism and spent some time defining that. And one element of paganism is that spirit dwells in all things. So naturally, this would include our food, our fruits, our vegetables, meat, dairy products, even in processed foods. Foods that are heavily processed, fast food, foods that contain a lot of artificial ingredients are associated with negative or lower vibrational energies, especially when it's an animal product and the animal was harmed or lived a life of suffering. And I think, in my experience, as I have shifted my diet away from such foods, and it's not a complete elimination for me, I will still sometimes eat pepperoni, for example. But I don't know for how much longer I will do that, because it's like I have become energetically attuned to eating better quality foods. And now when I'm on the go or just kind of, I guess, succumbing to a craving, I can feel that. Lower vibrational energies, including harm and suffering, are getting passed on to me, the person who consumes that food product. And it's not really just as simple as I'm going to digest this and it's going to be out of my system. The thing with energy and lower vibrational energies is it gets stuck in the body. It creates energetic blockages, energetic imbalances, and what I think is becoming more and more accepted in the scientific and medical communities is this leads to disease. And what may have been strictly sort of a metaphysical concept a couple decades ago, saying like, if I eat this, it's going to impact my energy body. I think, again, decades ago, that was maybe considered a little woo-woo and out there. But we're starting to, I think, really acknowledge the truth to that. And there's more acceptance of that as research continues.
I absolutely believe it. Nicole and I were chatting before we hit record, and we happened to mention the layers of the body, the 10 spiritual bodies that we have. We have our energetic body, our physical body, our mental body, that it's all interconnected. But to say one is unaffected by the other, or that it doesn't matter that you're eating this chicken nugget, for lack of a better, for like, and I'm using that as a, like you said, pepperoni. Okay. Like, that is a highly processed, highly removed from the natural state of what it was to what it is when it hits your digestive system. That's like a pepperoni, like a chicken nugget. That it doesn't matter. I've been eating pepperoni, I'm going to tell you that it does matter. That it does matter. Because for us to say that consuming something and putting it inside of our bodies doesn't matter is like saying injecting silicone underneath my skin doesn't matter. It matters. Everything we put on and in our bodies matter. And I'm not saying not to eat pepperoni. I'm just saying know that there is no throwaway. Here we go. There is no throwaway things. What am I trying to say, Nicole? You always sum up what I'm trying to say so much better. There are no freebies in this. That it's like you said, like you're eating well, you're traveling. Nicole's going to be in Canada for a period of time. You're going to feel it when you come back to your state where you live right now. The food is going to be different. How you're living is going to be different. That if you want to feel the difference between eating pepperoni and not eating pepperoni, you have to stop eating pepperoni for a period of time. Check in with how your body feels. And then hold that pepperoni in your hand, and then you make a conscious decision to eat it again. Don't do it because it's automatic or because you've always been doing it. Think about it. Decide to do it. Don't just do things without thinking about it, especially what we're eating. Especially what we're eating.
Yeah. And again, I am not a vegan, not yet anyway, and I don't eat red meat very frequently at all. I would say 4 times a year. And we'll kind of get into this a little bit more because now this kind of opens up the conversation into what Christina mentioned earlier, how this ties back into our purchasing power. I would say there's many reasons I don't eat red meat frequently anymore. And one is plain and simple, I do not feel well. If that is a major component of my diet.
Yeah.
There is also the environmental concerns, the water it takes to raise cattle versus growing vegetables or raising chickens. And then, of course, the big one is how were these animals treated? What was their life like during their time on Earth? I eat pork even less than I do red meat, largely because of how animals are treated. When I first did my yoga teacher training, goodness, almost 8. God, that is 8 years ago. Okay,
Wow.
long time ago.
Wow.
I was not open minded to becoming a vegetarian or a vegan. And some yogis, that's part of them walking that yogic path because there is a limb of yoga. It's ahimsa, doing no harm. And just that one principle, there's a lot of degrees
Oh, yeah.
in terms of how far you take it. Honey comes
I
up.
know.
As the years have gone on, I have started to care way more about the treatment of animals. And I think I mentioned in our resolutions podcast, buying products that are cruelty free is very important to me. When I eat meat, which is not often, there are certain requirements like cage free, free range. I look for these things because, yes, it's more expensive, but I need to eat in alignment with my values. A lot of our themes, like Christina and I both have already said, from our purchasing power episode apply here. Even more so because our food choices have a direct impact on our health, our well being, physically and energetically. For me, there is also a component of being willing to invest that extra money on the front end in terms of the quality of my groceries and the energetics of the food because I've said this before. I want to be independent of a corrupt and dysfunctional American healthcare system
Yes.
that seeks to profit off our sickness and
Well, I'll
disease.
put grocery stores in there too in capitalism. They're working well, in my mind, they're working hand in hand with that to keep us in a state where we're not thinking about what we're doing. So you want to be kind of independent of the healthcare system and independent of like having to rely on that one grocery store to tell you what you should be eating.
Yes, the food labeling system is also in our country misleading. So it really does take reading nutrition labels, reading ingredient lists.
We actually have to do more research. And sometimes buying a conventional product is actually better than buying the like um, all natural or the other product. We have to do
Mhm.
research. And some people might like, I can already hear somebody saying, I don't have time for this. What does it matter? It's like, I think you're about to say it right now how important food is. It's something we do all day, every day, 3 times a day. How can it not matter what you are physically putting inside of your body?
What I wrote down is it is more empowering to use food as medicine
Yes.
as opposed to a poison. Our fast foods, our grab and go type food, typically not a clean ingredient list. I would rather make a long term investment in the quality of my food. To me, that's better to put my money into foods of better quality. Or the alternative, if I don't do that, costly medical bills down the road, chronic conditions, dependence on a healthcare system that treats symptoms and not root causes, that encourages prescription medication use rather than diet and
Yes.
exercise, that encourages medications rather than holistic, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What about exercise? My brother is a personal trainer, and one of his clients had diabetes and very high A1C levels. And my brother does some nutrition counseling as well. He's not a nutritionist, but in working with this client of his, exercise and diet changes, right? The hard way, the way that requires
Yes.
effort on our parts. He's off his medication
I
completely.
believe it. That's not the first time I've heard that.
His diabetes is under control and he no longer requires
That's
medication.
amazing. Can you imagine how free you would feel if you could, like, to do that? And the freedom you have from daily stress, insecurity, anxiety, medicine, all the things you need to do. And I'm not a diabetic, and I don't know anybody personally, but I know enough about it to know it is not an easy diagnosis to deal with.
Right.
And to be free of it, how that's fantastic.
Not underestimating the power of what we're eating.
Yeah.
It has a drastic impact on our well being physically and energetically. Purchasing power. Being aware of our purchasing power means that we are acknowledging the influence and responsibility we have when making spending decisions. We talked about that in resolutions in terms of products that we buy for ourselves, for our home. But now we're talking about it in the context of the food that we're buying and consuming.
And really, what are we buying more and more often than food? Honestly.
Right. Taking the principles and the questions from one context and applying them here. Who and what am I supporting? Is this supporting a local farmer, a locally owned restaurant? Is this item where I live in or out of season? Is consuming this supporting my overall health or moving me closer to disease? What are the ethics and values of the grocery stores I shop at? Do I have access to farmers markets? I have lived in big cities. I have lived in small towns. And a lot of small towns, you do have access to a farmer's market.
Sometimes you have to search this stuff out and ask around, but I'm surprised at how much is out there when you look around. The thing is that when you're busy and you think it doesn't matter and you're working on all these other things that you seem overwhelmed, but there is options out there. We have to find them or we have to create them. It's on a scale of where you live and what you can do. And then you do your research and then you make the best decision you can. Right? And sometimes that's a farmer's market. Sometimes that's a self-imposed seasonal eating plan. That's what I do. I don't eat strawberries when they're not in season and other fruits and vegetables. But that's self-imposed. And that might be just because you have to do all of your shopping at the one store that's available to you. And we know that, listeners. We know there are places in this country where you have one store.
Right.
And then it comes down to doing the research and then buying the best product that store has to offer.
For sure. And I think a majority of the time there are options, and it comes down to us being willing to seek those other options out and maybe inconvenience ourselves a little bit.
I know, right?
To affect the change that we want. To use our purchasing power to express our values and to demand better quality food and ethical processes.
Yeah. And where I live, like I said, I am and I know it, I am grateful. I have options and there's farmers markets and I have year-round vegetables. But what do I do about grapes bananas, avocados, like I said. How do you make those fit into your eating plan if you choose to include them? You guys have to do your research and make your best decisions. But that's when we have to apply our values to our eating plan. What is it that you want and don't want? And here's the thing, it starts small. Start with your tea, start with your coffee, start with your honey. How about just your eggs? You know what I mean? Pick that one thing and be like, okay, I'm only going to do tea that doesn't, loose leaf tea, or I'm only going to do single source coffee, or I'm going to find somewhere that sells eggs that meet the requirements that I want for a healthy, protein or nutrient dense product. And then do that for a period of time. And then when you're ready, add in another product. Then maybe it will be your apples. Are there local apples? Are there other fruits and vegetables that you can include? So start small and notice how you can build from there. It doesn't have to be your whole pantry all at once or your whole fridge all at once. We can evolve and we can grow and we can change these things. And then there was this other note I put here about things that we consume that aren't food. Paper towels, napkins, coffee filters. Like, there's other options for these as well. And even if you can't give up coffee filters, I don't use paper towels in my house. I use kitchen cloths. So are there other things that you can apply to your consumption so that now you don't have to buy paper towels and napkins twice a month? You can use that money towards high quality honey, really good local honey. That'll help you with your allergies and all that other stuff anyway. But look around and find other ways that you can take control of what you're consuming and how you're consuming. People are doing some amazing backyard cottage industry stuff. Hoop houses, greenhouses, hot houses, mushroom caves. Have you seen this? Hydroponics for microgreens. People are doing amazing stuff in their backyards, in their local communities, in abandoned mine shafts. Like up in Pennsylvania, they have this huge underground mushroom field in the coal mines. I mean, so much stuff is happening here, but maybe they're not being sold at grocery stores, so we have to go find them. We have to find these cottage industries. We have to talk to our neighbors. We have to go to these little farmers markets and these different places and meet people and find out what's available. Because it's worth it. It is worth it.
Yeah, I really do look at it as an investment in my long-term
Yeah.
well-being.
But it's out there. We just have to find it and support it because it's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. It's an investment in ourselves, investment in our future, investment in the future we want. What do we want more of? If you want more local honey, buy local honey. there's no, if you want more organic free range eggs, you have to go out and buy them.
Yeah, I think we said this in our purchasing power episode. These types of changes will inconvenience us and be more expensive. But then it also goes back to the idea, start with one thing at a time. Make small changes as you need to replenish items in your home. You don't have to throw away everything in your refrigerator and go to Whole Foods.
I know. Don't do that.
and spend $900 or whatever, but we can take small steps for ourselves, our physical well-being, our energetic well-being, and to show support for the people who are, I think, really pioneering and leading us forward in how we eat, what we eat, where it comes from. And I would rather use my money to voice my support of those cottage industries, the farmers markets, rather than continuing to fund large corporations, big chain grocery stores, and consuming things that put me at risk of leaning on a system for care, doing air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
care, when the healthcare industry and health insurance industry is a for-profit business that do not uh that really, I think, don't
Yeah.
care. Maybe they care, but secondary to that profit
Yeah.
line. So, as always, the choice is
It's
ours.
best for their future if we're taking something every day, like pills and prescriptions. That's money in their pocket. And I'm not saying people don't need prescriptions. We're not saying that. I'm just saying there's a lot that we can do as preventative maintenance, as investment to our future.
Food is
Food
medicine.
is medicine. There's like so many things going on in my head right now that I want to say, but I'm going to stop. We'll do another. Yes, we'll do another podcast on. I think I wrote down vegetarianism because we were talking about Pythagoras and how they didn't have, before they had the phrase vegetarianism, you were called a Pythagorean. And I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, you know what? I want to do the history of Pythagoras and vegetarianism. But anyway, we'll discuss more on that, listeners. You know that this conversation is ongoing on all these things that we are discovering together. And I want to also say, listeners, that Nicole and I are on this we're on this journey with you. That I'm making changes. I'm discovering things every week that I didn't know existed, that I didn't realize I needed, stuff I don't need at all that I'm getting rid of. That you're traveling, so you're really going through kind of like a, I don't need any of this. I only need this, and I'm here kind of going through this purge, for lack of a better word. That's really hard to do. You know this, Nicole. You're out in the world moving around, like it's hard. We know that, listeners, and we're going through it too. We're going through it too.
Yes.
We know how hard it is to be in the world with with the burden of information that we don't want to spend money on things we don't need. Anyway, sorry, that's another tangent. Message from the universe. The Wild Unknown.
I'm ready.
The Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Guidebook by Kim Kranz. 2 cards. And then the final card is for
Okay.
everybody. A or B? Card A. Oh my gosh! So perfect. The spider. Because we are
Ooh.
creating, we are making our own web. We're creating our own thing. Spider, creator of prosperity. Oh, hold on. Spider, creator of prosperity through life's work. Dharma. The spider is an ingenious creator. Its greatest gift is weaving the thread of Dharma into a vast, intricate web that supports the spider and those around it, both financially and spiritually. It is hard work, but the spider neither tires nor becomes impatient. This card reminds us creativity is everywhere. Be process oriented rather than results oriented, and soon your work becomes like weaving of a magical, priceless tapestry. Abundance follows. When in balance, you are appreciative, enthusiastic, and prosperous. When out of that balance, you might feel discouraged, tired, or forlorn. So, to bring into balance your spider energy, playful creativity. Card B, the hawk. Watchful, all seeing, messenger of divinity. The sharp eyes of the hawk watch our every move. This keen-eyed bird has the ability to see every little detail as well as the bigger picture. When this card appears, fate has its eyes on you, and the winds are shifting. It is said that the hawk carries news upon its wings and is sent from divinity itself to deliver it. The message should not be taken lightly. Though it may seem small or insignificant, it will eventually redirect your course. When in balance, you see clearly and you're intuitive. When out of balance, you might see too much, right? Suspicious. And to bring into balance, perspective shift. All right. The cosmic egg jumped out of the deck.
Yay.
Completion, harmony, the infinite within the finite. The cosmic egg is the final card in the journey of the animal spirit deck, and it represents the unfolding of cosmic consciousness. This state emerges after we have thread the path for quite some time, and through self-effort and grace, we experience self-realization. A sense of contentment and oneness spontaneously arises within us, and the veils of our self-limiting beliefs are lifted. When the essence of the cosmic egg has not been activated, we may feel as if we never get there, or that we travel alone, disconnected from others. Even if our encounter with this card is brief, appearing as a momentary glimmer or flash of interconnectedness, its potent energy stays with us. The cosmic egg is a remedy for the fragmentation of modern life. It's through the power of this card that we are reminded of the cosmic contract written at the beginning. We are reminded of the cosmic contract written at the beginning. We hold on to life, and life holds on to us. The journey is complete, but it does not end. The cosmic egg.
I like that card. And what's cool is I have where I'm staying, I'm on the 11th floor, and there's these beautiful floor to ceiling windows that I am sitting in front of. But there's a little friend. She's a spider, and she hangs out in like the corner of one of the windows up here on the outside. So she's fine. She's not on the inside. If she was inside my space on the windows, this would be a relocation story, but she's on the outer side. So she's more than welcome. And then there's lots of crows and seagulls, not quite a hawk.
The thing with the hawks are usually they are so high and far away that we never get a good look at them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love these cards because I love animals. And sometimes we were talking about how when you start on your energetic journey and your energy starts clearing and everything starts aligning and you become more empathetic. Is that empathetic? That not only are you shifting away from your diet and your lifestyle switches because you just feel things differently and you need different things and you crave different things to eat and different places to be and like everything different. And we won't know that until we start on the journey. We might start small, but the benefits are there and the energy will align and we'll start to shift with it. Just be open to it. But then don't be surprised when you don't want that pepperoni anymore.
Right. Well, we will be back next week with the law of attraction.
Everybody be safe. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is theradicalpod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.